So if this proves to be true and the administration takes this action, what would the reaction be likely in the FX markets?
Well, I think, David, what we've seen is, if you recall a couple of weeks ago, President Trump's new National Trade Council head, Peter Navarro, singled out Germany as somebody who's benefiting from a grossly undervalued currency. So this multi-pronged, sort of multilateral approach to trade issues has kind of already started. And what we saw that day was the euro actually rose. Now, it's fallen back since then on political concerns, David, but I think what it does is it takes some of the sting out of the bilateral negotiations between China and the U.S., and perhaps by widening the net, President Trump and the administration are able to deal with other trade issues with other countries, and Germany being a specific example that they highlighted a couple of weeks ago.
And Richard, when Peter Navarro made those remarks, one of the first questions was, okay, fine, what is the president going to do about it? This would be a suggestion, would it not, that actually the president might be able to do something about it?
Well, yeah, and the big thing I think that is raising concerns among investors is that if we do get more of a protectionist bent from the administration, this will prove as a drag on global growth, David. And if that's the case, I think it'll make the macroeconomic picture in 2017 and beyond even more cloudy than it already is.
But there is a distinction to be made, again, between taking President Trump seriously versus literally. So are we to take a potential tax of imports from countries that they think potentially devalue their currency as literal? Or is this a suggestion and saying, guys, get it together, have a stronger currency, and I'll get off your back?
Well, I think in the case of Europe and Germany specifically, Alex, it's a pretty complicated thing because, of course, you've got many countries in the euro area and one currency and one central bank. So I'm not sure how, you know, in the case of Europe specifically, how they're going to get their act together, because monetary policy is set for the entire area. And I think people have been right to sort of look at Germany and say they've been the big beneficiary of this monetary policy. Even in Germany, some of the politicians are saying, look, we want higher rates. We don't want the euro to be this weak. But realistically, with one monetary policy for the entire continent, it becomes a tricky thing. So I think investors kind of have to take him literally until we actually see the details of what the plan is.
Well, I'll give you that when it comes to Europe, but now when it comes to China, I mean, China has been trying to actually prop up its currency and prevent that devaluation. Is this really just a message to China? Keep propping up your currency or make direct investments here into the U.S.?
I think it could very well be that, Alex. And the thing is, it's very much, the relationship between China and the U.S. is a very complicated one because, of course, China is one of the biggest providers of credit, one of the biggest buyers of Treasury securities out there. So when you've got your creditor dealing with you on bilateral trade negotiations, it does become quite complicated. But I think that could be the message that the Trump administration is trying to send to China.
So looking down the road just a little bit, Richard, I've always heard it said that you don't pull out a gun unless you're ready to fire it. Once you start saying we're willing to do this, does this really ramp up the possibility of trade wars? If they actually took this action to impose countervailing duties, what would likely be the retaliation from other countries?
Well, I think if the first few weeks of the Trump presidency has taught us anything, is that the president is not afraid to act, and this could very much lead to, drawing the gun with the intention of using it. Now, what does it mean in terms of the reaction from other countries? Well, China, I think, is already starting to buy less Treasury securities than they did. If they were to continue that and ramp that up, that could be a problem as U.S. yields would rise perhaps a little bit more quickly than anybody is sort of planning on right now.